What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical average American here today to react and learn about the weirdest things about Canada. You hear that, Canada? You're weird. you're very weird. And today we're going to expose you for how weird you are. But seriously, I think the fact that countries around the world, including Canada, are very unique and different to the United States in particular, is fantastic. It's one of the best things about this planet, honestly. Who wants to be normal? Being normal is boring. So I'm actually quite excited to see this list of the top things that are weird about Canada and see how that compares to the United States and all of that. It's a bit interesting to me because sometimes Americans will acknowledge things about Canada that are so different. And then there's a huge part of Americans who are also like, "Oh, Canada, it's a lot like the United States, right? Right?" And most Americans don't really even know what the differences are. So I think this is going to be really funny and kind of interesting and educational all at the same time for pointing out the unique, weird things about Canada. So I'm quite excited for this. Let's take a look.
Number 10. Why do Canadians say "eh" so often?
Of course. Yeah, okay. It's a good one to start on, eh? Did I do that right? Why do this? It is so funny how the word "a" and the use of "a" is become so synonymous with Canada. I'm not sure I know of any other country in the world that has something like the use of a word like "a," and how it is just this fascinating thing. And I've tried to learn about "a" in the past, and I'm curious to see what he has to say about this. Why do Canadians say "a" so often? Well, it's useful, actually, from what I understand.
Many countries around the world use the interjection "eh" as a replacement for pardon or huh, or a question like right. In Canada,
yes, exactly. Instead of like huh or right. Yeah, that is the simplest, easiest explanation for me, is comparing "a" to saying like, you brought the bag of potatoes in, right? Or something like that.
Canada, though, the word is much more versatile. An assistant professor at St. Francis Xavier School in Nova Scotia actually found there are 10 ways that Canadians use the interjection.
Oh
now,
my gosh.
obviously,
I know "a" has a lot of utility, but 10 different ways to use it?
British, not Canadian, so I'm going to invite our resident Canadian who actually wrote this article he's done a little audio recording at his home and sent it to me because I would screw these all up. So
nice, we're going to have a Canadian explain how to use "a."
So we've got a genuine Canadian doing this. Over to you, Robert, and I'll be back in just a second.
Number 1, statement of opinion. The Leafs are probably going to miss the playoffs again, eh? Number 2, statement of fact. There's a Harvey's on the corner, eh? Number 3.
I think I just like how this Canadian narrator is presenting and narrating. It's so like deadpan. Okay, statements of opinion, statements of fact. My car looks beautiful, eh? Like it's more like you're saying, you better say my car is beautiful.
Commands. Make my fries a poutine, eh? Number 4, exclamations. Roll up the rim is back at Tim's, eh? Number 5, questions. Do you think that the Jays will win today, eh?
Yeah, I think "a" turning a statement into a question is probably the number one, like, kind of purpose of the use of "a" that I'm familiar with. So this is actually pretty educational for me, learning that there's 10 ways to use it.
Number 6, to mean pardon. Eh? What did you say? Number 7, in fixed expressions. I know, eh? Number 8, insults. Right. You're a real hoser, eh?
Insults. You're a real hoser, eh? You can just basically throw "a" onto the back of any sentence, from what I can tell, and it'll find a way to become to have a meaning, at least.
Number 9, accusations. You took the last Timbit, eh? Number 10, telling a story, the narrative, eh? So Gordy's been drinking Pilsner and pounding CC for a few hours, eh? And he goes and gets the keys to the Zamboni.
Oh, I have heard of that way of using A. That's very obscure to me. You can use A, you can say A in the middle of your statements when you're telling a story or something, just to make sure people are still listening, basically, if I understand.
So thank you, Robert, for jumping in and doing that, because that is something that I would truly screw up. Number 9. What's the deal with the tragically hip?
The tragically hip! Oh, not that long ago, did a whole reaction to the tragically hip. Man, that was... Gosh, I didn't know. I didn't know this was going to happen. I didn't know we were bringing the tragically hip into this. I'd never heard of them. Didn't know anything about them for my entire life. Then bam, like a month or two ago, I did a reaction of the tragically hip and their tragic story, especially of the lead singer Gord. Yeah, I'm gonna let him keep going, but I know a bit about this.
Canada has given the world a wide range of musical artists like Celine Dion, Justin Bieber, Nickelback, Drake, The Weeknd, The Arcade Fire, and Bryan Adams, to name just a few. While Canadians aren't exactly proud of all of those acts, one band that is embraced by a lot of Canadians is the Tragically Hip.
I had no clue the Tragically Hip were so popular in Canada as well. First, I had to learn of their existence. I was like, okay. Then it's like, oh, wait. They're more than just this popular band in Canada. They're like the best-selling band or one of the most successful bands in Canada of all time. Have this huge emotional story behind it. It's got the whole package.
Or simply known as The Hip. While they had some success outside of Canada, like appearing on the Billboard Top 100, but no higher than 129, and being on Saturday Night Live, outside of Canada, they wouldn't necessarily be considered rock stars. In Canada, though, the bands were...
Yeah, I had honestly never heard of them. I don't know why.
Well, it was worshipped. Sadly, in 2016, the band's charismatic frontman, Gord Downie, announced that he had terminal brain cancer. On August the 20th, 2016, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, CBC, aired the band's last show, commercial-free, live from the band's hometown in...
I haven't seen this last show that was aired. Apparently it's incredible, emotional, like just a whole experience, this show, this final show.
Kingston, Ontario. In total, over 11 million Canadians tuned in. That's a third of all Canadians.
Yeah.
The only recent events that were more popular were the last 2 gold medal hockey games in the Olympics when Canada was playing, and...
You know when something is as popular or as viewed as like a gold medal hockey game in Canada, you know it's freaking popular.
One which Canadians do like to point out. So what's the deal with this band? Why do so many Canadians love The Hip? One reason is that The Hip often sang about Canada and Canadian topics like hockey, Canadian political figures, the changing Canadian identity, and small towns that Canadians didn't know existed until The Hip sang about them.
This is actually useful for me. I did a whole video on the Tragically Hip, and even some of this is good. Just explaining more in detail of why they're so popular, like that their songs referenced a lot of Canadian culture. That's very cool.
Secondly, the band was a strange embodiment of Canada. Downie is a humble and soft-spoken man, but on stage he is quirky, expressive, and passionate. Their music was the same way. It was a mix of rock and folk, nothing too flashy, but soulful with a Canadian accent. Another reason that they were so loved in Canada probably stems from the fact that they weren't popular in the United States, which made them Canada's band.
Yeah, I never thought of it like that. Americans don't like this band, so we love it even more. So, I'm sure a lot of Americans like the Tragically Hip, don't get me wrong, but it really comes across as this was Canada's band. This is Canada's band.
An ongoing theme you're probably going to notice throughout this video is that sometimes Canadians look down their noses at Americans, and many Canadians definitely want to be different from Americans, and The Hip is symbolic of that.
I mean, I'm sure Canadians don't want to be lumped in with Americans, but I think Canada has more than enough things going for it and its culture to definitively, without any effort at all, like firmly be its own specific and unique culture. And heck, we're watching a video right now about all the weird stuff all the unique, weird stuff about Canada, for crying out loud.
It's not that Americans rejected the hip, it's that Americans don't understand them, just like they don't understand universal healthcare and gun control. It also doesn't hurt that they have some excellent songs, and all of this comes together to make the hip the ideal band for Canadians.
Okay.
Number 8.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. What's up with Canadian currency? Canadian currency. It's been a while. At some point, I have seen some Canadian currency on the YouTubes. It's like plastic. It's high tech. It's actually attractive looking.
What's up with Canadian currency? The Canadian $1 coin is commonly called a loonie because there's a picture of a common loon, which is a bird on one side of it. So
I actually forgot why it was called a loonie. There's a loon on it. I was just like, wow, Canadians are so funny, coming up with these funny names.
When the $2 bill was discontinued and a $2 coin was introduced and it featured a polar bear on it, following the same logic that a loon appears on a loonie, then a coin with a polar bear on it should be called something like a berry, right? Well, no, they decided to call it a toonie. No real reason for it, just the name.
Well, it's $2. Toonie. $2. I get it. I like that, actually.
The name seemed to stick. As for what is on the other side of the coin, well, it's a profile of Queen Elizabeth II's head, the face of the reigning British monarch that has appeared on Canadian coins ever since the Royal Canadian Mint started production in 1908.
Has this updated at all with the passing of Queen Elizabeth? Are coins in Canada starting to get minted with King Charles' face on it? I'm a bit curious about that, actually.
They do this because Canada and the British monarchy have a rather complicated relationship that we'll get to in the next entry. Another confusing aspect of Canadian currency is that there are no pennies. It was eliminated in 2013 because it cost...
2013? There's no pennies? There's no pennies? What if something costs like $1.02? I didn't know there were no pennies. Well, there used to be pennies, and as literally 10 years ago, as recent as 10 years ago, pennies were eliminated, for lack of a better word. Destroyed in Canada? Did everyone have to turn in their pennies? Or I have a lot of questions about this. No pennies. I heard, a long time ago, I think in the United States, they talked about getting rid of the penny, and people didn't really know what that would mean or if that was logistically possible, and lo and behold, Canada's done it. I mean, with most transactions being digital anyway, using a card or paying online, it doesn't matter at all, does it? I think it's because pennies were getting lost and the materials used to make the penny were just going to waste and stuff like that. I didn't know that. That's kind of random to me. Okay.
Cost 1.6 cents to make every 1 cent piece. Also, pennies were
they cost more to make than they're worth.
only used to make change because the denomination was too small to buy anything. Instead of a penny, the price of something is just rounded to the closest 5-cent denomination. This is a...
It's round... Does that work? I guess it does, because it's happening. It's just rounded? So do you get really annoyed when something is $1.13, where you're like, dang it, it's $1.15 now. Man, it's just not my day. When if it was $1.12, it'd be rounded down. I guess in the end, it all equals out. That's fascinating. So that's the solution. Huh. Okay.
Only for cash transactions. If you pay with credit or debit cards, then the cents still count.
Right.
Finally, yes, the money is very colourful. It's also see-through in some areas, contains braille, and it's supposed to be unrippable and unmeltable.
Unmeltable. Plastic. Unrippable. Has braille. I didn't know it has braille. That's fantastic. So many... I mean, why the heck is our United States physical bills so darn bad and boring and ugly? As soon as I see something like a Canadian $100 bill or so, it always brings this back for me. Like, what is America doing? Like, why can't we just do simple, cool stuff like this that Canada just enacts, and then I see it on YouTube and I figure out that Canada's been doing this forever, and I was like, wait, it's possible to have high-tech, attractive money? Wait, that's a thing?
This is because the money is polymer-based and not made of cotton and paper. And yes, on their money they have a picture of kids playing hockey, and that's found on the $5 bill. Number 7.
Yeah, the images are cooler, colorful. Yeah, I'm all for it. Canada has a queen. I guess this video is a little older, because obviously Queen Elizabeth passed away. Very sad, although I'm glad this is a topic here, because even I don't even still truly understand the relationship between Canada and the British monarchy?
Canada has a queen. Yes, it does, Queen Elizabeth II. However, the relationship between Canada and the Queen is quite confusing to many people, including Canadians themselves. Yeah. Canada, it's an independent and sovereign country, as they were granted independence on July the 1st, 1867, but it also stayed in the British Empire. Also, their parliamentary system is based on the Westminster system that was developed in the United Kingdom.
I wonder why Canada, I'm sure there's historical things I could actually read about this, which I should. But for now, I just wonder, why did Canada gain independence yet still remain as a part of the British Empire? What specifically happened there?
The system has a British sovereign as the head of state, so Canada's parliament followed suit and put a British sovereign as the head of state. As the years progressed and Canada continued to take steps towards sovereignty, they simply didn't get rid of the British sovereign, even when they became a completely sovereign nation in 1982. Today, the Queen...
Ah, interesting. It's just like based on how things were done. And I guess for all intents and purposes, Canada is fully autonomous and independent. So this is just a technicality more than anything. It doesn't really matter.
Or whoever is the reigning monarch is a symbolic head of state, and they have no real power. Also, to remove the British monarchy as the head of state would be a lengthy and ultimately expensive legal process. So unless something really drastic happens, Canada will probably have a British monarch for the foreseeable future.
Okay, it's literally, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Kind of an American mantra there. That'd be a lot of effort, and no one really has a huge problem with it, so it's fine, basically.
Number 6. Why is milk sold in bags?
Yeah, yes! I'm so glad this is on the list. Oh my gosh, this is true to the name of this video. Things about Canada, the rest of the world finds weird. Bagged milk? What's going on? Apparently, I thought all milk was bagged in all of Canada. Apparently, that's not true. Kind of like how all Canadians don't say about instead of about. But there is bagged milk. It does exist. And I would like to know why.
Throughout Ontario and Eastern Canada, the majority of milk is sold in bags. Usually there are 3 0.35-gallon bags sold in one bigger bag. Yes, it really is bags sold in bags in Canada, and apparently they do prefer what we're going to call bagception. Anyway, the bags are then...
the bags sold in bags. That's good. And then you have a container, a pitcher to put the bag in to be able to pour it. I thought you take the bag and it's like jiggling around in your hand the whole time and you're trying to pour it into your cup.
Put into milk bag holders, often made of plastic, and then either one or both corners of the bag are cut off. Some people think it pours better with 2 holes. The reason they use bags instead of jugs comes down to one of the major differences between the United States and Canada, which is that Canada adopted the metric system in 1970. This was a problem because Canadian products like milk needed to be sold in litres instead of gallons. However, major alterations needed to be made to the milk bottling machines in order to do litre quantities.
Is that what it is? It's not to be edgy or to be cool or unique. It's just, it was convenient, a convenient solution to, okay, Canada wants to sell milk in liters. Our manufacturing plants don't make liter containers, so we're gonna shove the milk into bags. Is that fair?
A solution to the problem had been invented in the 1960s when DuPont discovered a way to inject milk into bags. The milk bagging machines didn't need much in the way of alterations, and by 1978, milk in bags was the most common way to buy milk in Ontario.
Wow.
It grew in popularity because bags are easier to ship, less fragile, and less packaging is used. All of this saves money, making it the most economical way to ship milk.
Wow, hey, there you go. Actually turned out to be kind of good. And honestly, at this point, I don't want this to ever change. Like, bagged milk is so Canadian that I don't want that ever to change. It's like one of my most favorite things. I'm so glad it exists because it's so strange to learn about and even stranger to continue learning about why it's in bags and how it's easy to ship the jiggling milk bags and... Anyway, I'm enjoying this quite a lot. This video is actually quite long. So I think I'm going to stop here for now and continue the second half of this video of the weirdest things about Canada in part 2, which will come out after this video. So if you've enjoyed this so far, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment. And if you're interested in part 2 or just more videos in general about me discovering Canada and Canadian culture, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.